We are Team 8. We did a literature review on Apple. I'm Alexand Gibson.
I'm Erim Gokce.
And I'm Miguel Galeno. When people hear the name Apple, they automatically think of the iPhone, but here we're going to talk a little bit of the backstory of the company Apple. It all started in 1976, and it was founded by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. There were three friends. Ronald Wayne is one that is least heard of, and that's because early in the company, he decided to sell his share for $500, which in turn, as of today, is actually worth $72 billion. To talk a little bit about the iPhone line, the first one was the iPhone 2G, and it was introduced in 2007, and the latest one was introduced late last year in 2016.
So from 1976 up until 1980, Apple had released three computers known as the Apple I, II, and III, respectively. These computers weren't so different from what was available in those days, in that they were very basic and they were operated using a programming language, which made them very esoteric and hard to use for the regular person. But in 1980, Apple released this device, the Macintosh, which revolutionized computing in that it became bundled with a GUI, a graphical user interface, and a mouse that you could use to interact with the computer. And it came with no programming language at all. It was used solely based on the mouse and this GUI, and that made it very accessible to the average layperson. And this design is the beginning of what Apple takes as their philosophy in making ease of use the highest priority. Now, Apple ran with this device from 80 until 91, and at that point, in that timeline, they released various upgrades and new improvements, but there was no noticeable releases during that time. And in 91 began a decline and what was known as Apple's low point in the history of the company, and that is due to various forays into other technological inventions like PDAs and tablets, which altogether weren't too successful and were very forgettable overall. But in 2001, there was a big technological innovation. The iPod was introduced, and this revolutionized how you listen to your music. It was an MP3 player that was simplicity at its core. It came with this scroll wheel that made it so easy to navigate through your up to 2,000 songs that was available on this first iPod. And it was game-changing in that it was an MP3 device that sold over 100 million units because of how popular and accessible it was. So this marks another device that shows Apple's core philosophy of being back to basics and having simplicity and ease of use as its core priority. And with this iPod, just as important came the iTunes software, which also revolutionized the music industry and how they distribute music to the public, because it made buying a song and transporting it to your iPod simple and intuitive. And Apple also began with this software and this hardware synced together a closed system approach in how their products were very symbiotic with one another and they were designed to work together. And this device is nothing compared to the next game changer that was introduced in 2007, which Miguel will talk about.
I stated earlier, the first iPhone was introduced in 2007. It was called the iPhone 2G. This is when Apple decided to pretty much merge together their iPod Touch with a cellular device. This was a game changer in all cell phone industry, and they made it possible. Here I want to talk about a few key components that have been changed throughout the iPhone line, and after that, in 2007, 2 years later, in 2009, the iPhone 3GS was introduced. The 3GS actually came with video recording for the first time. It made recording possible while still being mobile and being able to send it whenever the video has been recorded because it's right on the cell phone. A year later, the iPhone 4 came out, and the innovative part of that one was the front-facing camera. At the time, people liked to take pictures of themselves, and it made it a lot easier instead of turning your phone over and trying to press the button. A year later, in 2011, Siri was introduced. Siri is actually a virtual assistant, and to this day, the newest iPhone still has that assistant in it. A year later, the iPhone 5 came out. That's when Apple Maps was introduced. It was a little laggy in the beginning, but their main objective was to overtake Google Maps for their own phones. And there was also a structural makeover in the iPhone 5. They made it a lot lighter and a lot sleeker. A year later, the iPhone 5S came out, and this one, they introduced with this one was a 64-bit A7 processor. 3 years later, the iPhone 6 Plus came out, and that's when Apple finally decided to go for a bigger is better approach, which they were not going for it in the beginning, but it made a big change because the iPhone 6 Plus is very similar to the 6, but it came with a 5.5-inch display.
So their current design is the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus. As he mentioned, these are large format displays. They are the king of the lineup for the Apple products. The design, it's all about usability, aesthetics, and power, all combined, optimized together. You can see in terms of the comfort, it has a large format display. It's rectangular, it's extremely thin, will fit in your hand comfortably, will fit in your pocket comfortably. It allows for a clean, simple look with just a screen, a button, and the speaker at the very top. The buttons for volume and mute are on the side. It allows you to hold the phone, use them without shifting your hand around, without having to mess about. It's allowed the phone to have also extreme capabilities in terms of its hardware and its software combined. The processor and the hardware, the RAM, everything is developed to work perfectly with the iOS that's incorporated there. It makes sense to have the entire ecosystem work as a whole unit. The structures of the device itself are just as important. It allows it to be incredibly strong. It allows it to be waterproof, allow the cooling system to be so good because everything works together. You have an internal structure that's connected to the front and the back, combining to make something that can survive falls, to survive pockets, won't allow it to bend. You have the ability to have such small manufacturing for the processors combined into one extremely small chip. It allows the battery to sit on the side and consume as much space as it can without actually increasing the width of the phone. The waterproofing along the entire sides are also very integral. It's one of the reasons why they actually got rid of the 3.5mm jack, to allow for this thinness. It allows this for the waterproofness because it's an orifice that can contaminate. So how can you improve upon these? Larger batteries, more efficient batteries, the energy density for them is super important. You can try and improve aesthetics. Smaller bezels is usually what people are looking for in modern phones, which can be seen in the Samsung S7. One of the other big improvements that the Samsung S7 has, its competitor, is using a OLED or AMOLED display. It allows it to have several functionalities. One, it just uses a lot less energy at any given moment when the display is on. It allows it to have much darker black, and also very importantly, an always on display. It allows a very small GPU that uses very little power to create a little clock on the screen. It uses almost virtually no power, and people are using their phones constantly to check time, and it's one of the ways that they're able to save power throughout the day as people check time. It's not using much. Materials is also a big thing. You're allowed to have better cooling, better looks, better feel. People really want that as a consumer.
So to conclude, Apple has always been at the forefront when it comes to innovation in consumer electronics. They stand by their philosophy of ease of use, sleekness, minimalism, and familiarity. And they have been a company to always shake up stagnating industries, and this can be seen by how often they are emulated by competitors. And that's why we think that makes Apple think different. So thank you.
Thank you.